my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai, literally coming at you live with a video. Well, as this is the 1,000 subscriber special, I would like to personally thank all of the noble band of outlaws who have subscribed, liked, commented, and helped progress the channel along, my knowledge, and everything else. And yes, those are pool noodles behind me, as I'm going to attempt some indoor cutting session because my state can't make up its damn mind whether it wants to rain, be sunny, snow, sleet, whatever the hell it is. Alright. Just a moment. Hey, Geekopedia! Thanks, bro. But to the 1,000th subscriber, which is a person I work with at Menards, I'd like to personally shout out Ellie, who is the 1,000th subscriber. Hey, Tempest! Thanks, bro. Geekopedia Tempest Geekopedia. He is my living thesaurus because of my inability to spell or spell. But in any case, so the sword thanks, Geekopedia. So the sword that I have for this 1,000 sub special is a sword that I've been eyeing my eye on for a while. And as a lover of old John Wayne Western movies, particularly the ones where he wears a sword, which are very few and far between, I picked up the Cold Steel 1860 Heavy Cavalry Saber. Now, I've already made an unboxing video that will be uploaded after the live stream. So you'll get my first impressions there. It has a metal scabbard, brass guard, eyeballing. See, this is what I'm talking about, Tempest. I never have to worry about my grammar being fucked up. Thanks. Now, there is actually a bit of a misconception in the Cold Steel's website. And this comes from the Academy of North American Saber Fighting YouTube channel that I watched a review of this on. Oh, Society of American Military Swordsmanship. And that is that this is not actually the 1860. Because on Cold Steel's website, they advertises as the old wrist breaker. And according to the Society of American Military Swordsmanship and my own research, what the old wrist breaker actually was the 1840 pattern, which this is. The 1860 was the light cavalry saber that came around and replaced the 1840 heavy cavalry saber, aka old wrist breaker. As we get to the blade here, I don't know why the oil smells like a cinnamon bun, but it does. We see it comes with the leather washer. Hey, Jason. Thanks. Thanks, Jason. Sorry, my brain tried to find like a longer part because I'm not used to people having short YouTube names. But my brain kind of had a brain fart. So we see that it has a feral, which is, or feral or casa, one of the two. Probably not for a few years. I doubt I'll ever reach 10K. 10K, I'll buy it. A challenge for all of you. If I hit 10,000 subscribers, I'll buy a Nihanto. I say whatever I want to, pay no attention to grammar. I got a middle finger shaped like a ball peen hammer. I say whatever I want. I say whatever I want to, pay no attention to grammar. I got a middle finger shaped like a Tempest dropping bars. I had to read that twice. But yeah. So if we look here, this actually is a double fuller. You have the main fuller right here, and then you have a secondary fuller on top of it. Very much similar to an Unakubi Zakuri. The blade itself isn't that bad, but it definitely could use a touch-up. And it has a massive amount of disc field taper, almost becoming nothing at the very tip. Now, as I mentioned prior, if I can just get this shit straightened up. Nihanto is like crazy expensive, but you can do it. Yeah, I'll probably attempt to drive down to RVA Katana and set up a payment plan with John. If I ever do buy a Nihanto, that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. So I have like a caterpillar crawly thing. Well, all right. We're going to start with ye olde pool noodle. Now, some people I've heard say cutting pool noodles is not a good cutting target. But if you don't have proper edge alignment or a hair-popping sword, you're not getting through these. And while this isn't hair-popping, I do believe that I should have no problem cutting through the pool noodle. So in 3, 2, 1. Right. So we noticed that it didn't really cut through all that well. Of course, I'm not really giving it a whole lot of oomph with my limited space. I'm going to try to cut this way now. So 3, 2, 1. We will get through this eventually. The weeaboo in me comes out to play. Remember what I said about not having a hair-popping edge on your sword? I have so little space in here that I'm kind of hesitating to swing this long, I almost want to say 34-inch blade at its full ability. Try a molentity. Tempest, if I understood what you typed, I'd try it. Let me try a little lower. cutting into it. That counts, right? Wrist flick cut. Okay. It may work. Didn't work. Okay, so pool noodle, not so good. Let's see how cardboard tube work. Close enough. This is Outlaw Samurai. We do not do exact here. I don't even do exactly. If I can get the little plastic part out. I feel like this is going to be a mixture of better but also worse. Come on. Stand. Stand, damn you. I don't want to hear it. I cheat. GED, good enough diploma. I was good enough I got good enough to get into beauty school. Help me. I got like this cooler thing. Take that off. Pop that through. Put that there. Take that in place. Pop that out. Put this back on. Turn off fan. Just tear it up. Now, perform cut. There, now I know where not to cut. So, 3, 2, 1. Yeesh. This is not going as well as I thought. It's definitely having an easier time biting in to the wood. Well, not wood, but tube. We can see here and here. I feel like this would be a much more prolific cutter than it is doing if I was more confident or it had a bit of a sharper edge of not ramming the blade into something. But there's one very nice feature of this, which I shall show in a moment. And that is that lovely, lovely ring. Ooh, it does something to me. Let me try pool noodle with reinforced cutting stand. Hold the sword to where the handle is next to your head. Also watch for ceiling like one-handed high stance. Hold the sword up to my head. Watch ceiling. Get low to ground and see, it's cutting. That was a nice one. And I don't want to get the work sharp out or anything because I still haven't done the unsharpened cutting video. See you. Okay. Look, one slice. Y'all saw that. It's the blade. It's definitely the blade. Because it's that kind of very standard quick, sharpie, cold steel edge. Hold on, let me check something. And looks like it's still raining outside. In any case, I bet some of you are wondering why this sword has a metal scabbard. And that's because military sabers of the 1800s had metal scabbards because of their durability and ability to not break as easily as a wood core one. Geekopedia, I already went bonkai enough yesterday, and yeah, they definitely have a bit of a neglectful streak. Cold Steel does. I haven't had a Cold Steel I haven't had to touch up or completely resharpen, except for my SRK. But aside from that, I mean, even yeah, that was a bad example, but okay. Britain, which the British light cavalry saber that I bought. Hold on, I'll go get it. I am back. Sorry it took a minute. Because the 1796 light cavalry saber that I got, I basically had to completely flatten a section of the edge. Hey, I dig sheet. You missed the unveiling of the 1,000 subscriber sword, the 1860 heavy cavalry saber from Cold Steel, which is actually the model 1840. And we are just getting into a discussion on the 1776. Also, we found out that the 1860 not good edge. And before anyone can claim Outlaw can't cut, that's what a proper edged saber is able to do with a very half-assed swing. And this is what a katana can do. So no one can say Outlaw can't cut. But if we look, Deadpool little. But if we look at these two side by side, we can see the evolutionary path of this being around, I want to say bare minimum 100 years older than this model. Note the extreme difference in curvature. And to be perfectly honest with you, this is the first saber that could be considered to have committed war crimes. And I went into this during the review of the 1776 light cavalry saber. During the Napoleonic era, where this was used predominantly, the French tried to accuse the British soldiers of war crimes because of how effective the originals of this sword were at lopping limbs and taking off heads. So, the first ever sword, to my knowledge, that is capable of committing gruesome war crimes. How many swords do I own? To this day, I still haven't actually counted the sons of bitches. Let's see here. Well, now I have the 1860. So I want to say about 20, 30 swords that are split between here and my dad's house. If we're talking like how many swords I've bought, then that easily goes into like the 35, 40 range. But I have gifted a couple of swords, like bought swords specifically to give to other people. Now, it's important to realize that I purposely chose to get the leather version of the 1776 because they offered a leather version of the scabbard. They had a metal scabbard to go with the 1776, but if you're not careful drawing swords out of metal scabbards, or if you're not accustomed to drawing swords often, or even if just the metal scabbard is cheap and not properly fitted, you could end up dulling the blade every time you pull it out. And honestly, historically speaking, I believe the 1860 heavy cavalry saber, at least to my knowledge, would be the equivalent of a historical service sharpening. And what do I mean by service sharpening? Well, service sharpening is a military term used to basically say that, hey, this sword is not razor or hair popping sharp, but it is sharp enough to do the thing you need it to do, and it's cut the other guy. The 1776 has been sharpened by yours truly on the work sharp. Damn it. It cut earlier. I always have trouble with this. It's one of the swords that always wants to give me attitude, basically. There we go. This will cut, but it likes to give me an attitude problem. She's a naughty, naughty sword. My raptor, on the other hand, is a total daddy's girl. And you hear me referring to swords as she's. Swords are like cars. They're always she's. Well, this basically emphasizes the difference between a service sharpened blade and a blade honed to a razor's edge. So, whilst we are still here, does anyone know what this metal piece at the end of the scabbard is for? I'll give you all a minute to type in your answers. I don't know if there's a delay on Steven Mark, her pleasure. No, it is not used for something like that. Anyone else want to venture a guess what the end piece is for? I'll give you a hint. It's, and I know this is going to sound wrong when I say it, for protection. I'll give you to the 30-minute mark. No Googling. Googling is not allowed. Googling is out of the question. No Google. Hobby into sub. Everyone can't though. Hey, Gargoyle. We're reaching the last 7 seconds. 4, 3. Close, Tempest, and you would normally be right if this was a Geekopedia. I know where you sleep. If any of you have watched my collabs with the Geekopedia, you know we have like the most healthy toxic relationship you'll ever see. But no, this is actually to protect the end of the scabbard from the ground. It works similar to a kick plate. And to help keep the scabbard from falling, from opening or cracking open from repetitive bouncing on the ground. Because these are worn relatively low to the ground on your belt. And as you walk, the sword would shake. And this little kick plate kept the ends of the scabbard, the seam, basically from coming apart. That's what this little end piece is for. Now that is my own personal knowledge. If you get designed for short kings, I mean Stephen Marca. I hope that's Stephen Marca. Stephen, you're not wrong. The average height of the average American in the 1800s to early 1900s was, I believe, for an adult man, roughly around 5'5", 5'6", and this has a almost 4-foot blade on it. Now, for someone like me, if I was to wear this at the traditional height, I have a good, I want to say maybe 6-7 inches of clearance between the ground and where the end of the scabbard sits. Now, sometimes it would just be hung straight down like this. Sometimes with the proper belt alignment, it would be hung at an angle, as you would have the belt system connect between these two rings. Similar to that of a tachi. And honestly, I could probably see myself just wearing it attached to my hip with the lower ring, because little too high up. And just because, if anyone asks, yes, you can draw it like a katana, and you can even do no-toe. And I figured someone would ask about that. But while not necessarily designed for short kings, the hanging system was designed and built for men of a variety of different heights. What's your shit hits the fan sword? That would be the Cold Steel Warrior O Katana, which I will grab. I shall be right back. Alright, I'm back. So my shit hits the fan sword is this behemoth. The Cold Steel Warrior O Katana, with a custom grip that I myself made. I'll say, if I had more skill fighting with a firearm, I may go with a bayonet, but a bayonet, as far as I'm aware, has too many limitations. It's similar to like a stiletto. You can't really carve cut or do bushcraft with it from the research I've gathered and the videos I've seen about them. I may be wrong, but I don't really know what an M9 bayonet looks like. And if I had to pick a shit hits the fan gun, it would probably be a lever action 30-30. Or well, if you want to know what this thing has cut through, you can go to the Cold Steel playlist on the channel, and 90% of those videos are just about this thing, at least the cutting wise. But I have cut through, I think, a 7-inch tree with this thing. I shouldn't really say cut through, I chopped through it. That is also one of the videos in the Cold Steel playlist on the main channel. This is a 34-inch. Tempest can answer that. He cut a 2x4 with it. I did. This sword has... Not only is this my Thanks, Nick Tinsley. Hope I pronounced your name right. This sword is not only my favorite sword because of its length and size and heft, as in its weight, but it's also been the sword I've done the most customizing to and the most redneck repair jobs to. I mean, I have a duct tape butt plate on the bottom of this thing and a black electrical tape kashira. And before anyone says anything, I do know where the kashira for this is. I just suck at tying the knots that keep it in place. And I didn't want to use glue because then when you have to repair the thing, you have to bust the glue off and then you have to bore out the damn broken pieces of wood inside the fittings, and it's just a whole mess. But canonically, that is my favorite sword, as I've already said. But what questions do you all have? Sword Death looks badass. Thank you, the best loser. But what questions do you all have for me personally? Sword-related questions, history questions, weapons in general. I had originally planned to do like a whole outside cutting thing, but in Indiana, Mother Nature has anorexic orgasm Caesar fits and can't make up her fucking mind with a damn. If anyone can hear, it's thundering again. I hear you repairing my longsword grip was a pain. Which longsword, Tempest? Because you have more long swords than I do. I only have 2 long swords. One I blunted for training, and then the bastard hand and a half sword. You have like a tinker sword, a couple others, and the same bastard sword. I'm in Wheatfield. Nice. Is that like a county in Indiana, or are you standing in a wheat field? Either way, cool. What's my dream weapon? A sword that could cut through anything and is completely indestructible. I'm talking demons, God, the universe, time. Like this thing, as soon as it moves, just cuts everything in front of it. And is completely indestructible. Like if I could enchant this thing. While I like the idea of a lightsaber, I also like the idea of being able to manipulate the blade with my hands. Also, you can't perform a murder stroke with a lightsaber. And for those of you wondering, a murder stroke is where you grab the blade and then you bash the guard into somebody's head. I got 2 now, gave my bastard sword to Chattanooga Chop. Lightsabers can't cut celestials. I can't even argue with the Wolverine claws. That's just badass. My dream weapons will all be Thanos sword. Gigapedia, you choose the most fucking impractical ass play. Me and him have had like full-on arguments over the Thanos helicopter sword. What would I recommend for a first sword? What are you going to be cutting mostly? Are you just going to be cutting water bottles, like sticks or branches in your backyard? Because what you're going to end up cutting, the predominance of the time, is what's going to inflict your purchase. Also, what your budget is. Are you starting with like a $50-ish to $150 budget? Or is money not an object? If money is no object whatsoever, I would say pick up a Hanwei Raptor, for example. Because it's made out of 5160 spring steel. It's durable, it's tough, it can take a beating and keep on ticking. These are what we refer to as beater swords. These are swords that you usually buy for near the beginning of your sword journey, that you can beat shit in your backyard, cut a wide range of targets, anywhere from water bottles to bamboo and tatami mats. And stuff like that. But if you're just going to be like cutting strict water bottles, or if you have a very minimalist budget, I would recommend going to Amazon and getting a cheap 1045 katana for around $50 to $100. That way it doesn't break your bank. And if you decide later on that you don't want to keep cutting, or you don't want to do a lot of cutting, it's not going to be wrong sword. It's not going to be an almost $400, $500 investment that's just going to end up mounted on your wall for weeks at a time. But if you're going to be doing a lot of repetitive cutting, definitely look into 5160 spring steel blades and 9260 spring steel blades. I will always recommend spring steels first, especially 5160. It's what I'm most accustomed to. It can take and keep a good edge. And you can generally abuse 5160's blades a little bit. I instinctually grabbed this because it is my favorite, but this is made out of 1055 steel. It's not a spring steel, but if you're a bigger dude and you're looking for a bigger blade as you've gained some experience, the Warrior O is a good blade. I can't say anything negative about it, except that it is a beast of a blade, and it does require a bit of a beast to wield it. Okay, so let's see here. I got behind in the comments. I imagine unintentional cut burns with a lightsaber would make them unusable unless you had supernatural powers like a Jedi. Well, I guess you could always like channel the Force around your hands if you wanted to do a murder stroke with a lightsaber. Okay. With a lightsaber, you can use most sword attacks. It would take some practice, though. Start with a starter sword, then work your way up. My Tinker is a 5160, never bends. I love it. And there's another thing, like, I guess you could say what ethnicity of blade you're looking for lack of a better word that my brain won't think of at the moment. My autism kicking in. Are you a filthy otaku looking for Japanese sword? Are you a girl, southern boy looking to kill them damn Yankees? I had to do it, okay? My dad is from Texas. I say, good fellow, are you a Brit looking for a bit of cultural heritage? And I don't have my longsword out here. I'm not going to keep going back and grabbing shit. But like I said, are you looking for European style blades? Like long swords? Are you wanting to start with a katana? If you're going to pick a long sword, there's not a lot of cheap long swords. The best ones that I and Tempest can attest to would be the Cold Steel hand and a half regular bastard sword. Do not buy the Man-at-Arms version. You will have a bitch of a time sharpening it because of the damn secondary bevel they put on those bitches. Or, as Tempest said, the Hanwei Tinker 5160. Both would be what I would start getting into the higher, lower end of budget swords. But when I recommend a long sword, I always recommend the Cold Steel hand and a half bastard sword because that is the only long sword I have that actually cuts worth a damn. But yeah. Like, hold on a second. I got my phone charging over here. Something. No problem, Nick. Something similar to this. This is a replica of Virgil's sword from Devil May Cry. But as you can see, if it's $49, $49.99 on Amazon. It does have a fuller, which I have a personal gripe against fullers. I don't really like them too much. But when you're looking at the pictures of katanas online, you need to make sure that they have these little bamboo pegs in them. They're called mikugis. They're what hold the nakago or the tang inside the suka core or the grip, the hilt, what have you. And without those, if you swing this thing, everything from the little collar up is going to go flying away from you. That's not a good thing. You're going to make a helicopter of death. Apocalypse A-Trim is about $160, so almost half the price, but looks decent. It also has no guard, though. And yet, the Tempest brings up another point. There's the whole, like, tactical genre of swords. Something like this, which is a pretty standard tactical katana. Basically, instead of the traditional grip like this and the traditional guard like this, they are slabs of micarta or plastic that are riveted to the sides of the grip. And they usually have a very small, minimalist disc guard, something just big enough to keep your hand from sliding up. and they always have like 100 feet of paracord with them. Something like this would actually be useful. There's a lot of tactical versus tactical. Tactical are those like mall ninja swords, like something like this. This is a mall ninja wall hanger that's going to snap if you actually take it into any kind of battle or situation where you actually need to use the sword as a weapon. 118 FPS is probably a better cut and thrust. It's a Type 18B, so it's a great balance between cut and thrust. Then there's all with the European swords. There's also the whole argument of, do you want a very thrust-centric sword like an S-Talk, or do you want a very wide cutting sword like an 18C? Think like like the competition cutting sword from Cold Steel. Just Google that. Hey, Tone Deaf. Thanks, man. Bastard Sword Cold Steel's a workhorse. Is more durable but heavier. Better for single cuts but less nimble and worse in the thrust. IMO. Hey, Tone Deaf. All right. Hey, bro. I'm sorry I gotta head out. Congrats again. Thanks, Wikipedia, for stopping by and for viewing. I'll catch you later. And Tempest, he's kind of going at like a trick cutter's angle, because there's like fancy sword tricks you can do and like double cuts and shit. I've done them. Tempest has done them. Eric Hussein's done them. I think Gargoyle's done a few, where you basically make one cut and then you simultaneously switch into the next cut. Fucking Eric is a beast at those things, I swear. But there's a whole genuine lot of parameters when you get into what is the first sword I should buy. And I've tried to make a couple of videos, I believe, in the past about this, but it ends up always becoming like an hour too long video, and I end up deleting it. Honestly, something like this, the $50 Amazon katana, if you're really going to start out your collection, I would look there, because that's where I started mine. They're cheap. They're easy to get your hands on. And if you decide later on that you don't want to cut anymore, or you just want to use it as a wall piece, or, which I have my own reservations against swords that are only for decoration, but that's a completely different rant. Like if you wanted to get like I said, if you don't want to cut anymore, you just cut like every other weekend, like a hobby or something, and you don't cut religiously, it's a good starter that you're not going to like cry and look at it every time like, I spent $400 something on this and I barely ever use it. Or I spent $700 on this and rarely ever use it. Or I spent $318, or I'm currently paying it off and will start using it, but probably won't use it very much. Or I spent $270 and don't use this thing at all, really. What I'm getting at is, buying a sword, any sword, is an investment. And if you're going to do a lot of cutting, it's better to get a slightly higher quality first sword made out of a decent spring steel that's going to be reliable and be able to take a beating, and bad cuts, because let's face it, we've all had like really bad, horrible scooping cuts when we first started. I've been there. I've done that. I've chipped my fair share of blades. But yeah, definitely look at the cheaper $50 Amazon katanas and consider if you're going to be doing this repetitively, or even if you're going to start collecting swords and making your own like sword content on YouTube, Nick. If you want to do that, well, me, Tempest, the rest of us, we will gladly welcome you into the sword community. All right. Quint is a Type 18C, so I'll be on Principe, but neither is cheap. Oh, yeah. Nick, don't look at, like, Albions at all. Like, your wallet will do the ass pucker faster than anything. Yeah, we all secretly want to buy an Albion. Maybe that's what I'll do when I hit 10K. Instead of buying a Nihonto, I'll buy an Albion. Let me know if I should do a poll. Like, when Outlaw hits 10,000 subscribers, should he buy an Albion or should he buy an Albion or a Nihonto? I don't think they make the Principe anymore, so I'll probably have to get one of their, like, I know, continuously made models. Yeah. Or if you're going to go like the longsword European style route, like me and Tempest said, the Hanwei Tinkers, the Cold Steel Bastard Swords, or even really the way I started out was I got a machete. My whole cutting career started with a machete. And at Academy Sports and Outdoors, they have the SOG Phantom Strike Gladius machete, which I just did a review on. You can overlook the steel type. I know I harp on that like a fucking bitch. But in any case, it was a damn good little blade and could easily... And I would recommend that to anyone wanting to get started in backyard cutting that doesn't know where to start or isn't looking to spend $100 plus $150. One of those swords cost a host mortgage. Yeah, Tempest ain't lying. Anyone who has done swords or who has stuff, or anyone who's done swords, you're welcome for the recommendation. Could you leave a comment saying what recommendation? Because I think I forgot something in my ramble. I'm looking up Albion swords. Yeah, they have to put swords under 1,000. Oh, the Gladius. Yeah, Tempest recommended that to me a while back. I'm just going to pull up the Archduke, which is a pretty typical looking longsword. But look at the price. That's why you don't. Albions are like Ferraris. We look at them, we know they're pretty, we know they're shiny, we know we want it, but we know we can't have it. Yes, I know I completely butchered my grammar. I did that on purpose to emphasize. We are man children. We want shiny, sharp things. Pretty, pretty, stabby, stabby. Yeah. But in my opinion, Albion is somewhat justified in their pricing for one reason, and that is the level of quality and precision you're getting. I mean, these things, they are 100% pure leather. They are heat treated to an exact spring temper. And they are they are like laser ground and cut from blanks of steel. And then the final polishing, the final hand sharpening, the final sharpening and polishing, they're all done by hand. Every single Albion blade. The fit and finish is all finished off by hand. So I can justify the cost of an Albion, especially with how high quality they are and how long they seem to last. The next brand down from an Albion would be Dark Sword. They're the only other European sword manufacturers that I know that make swords en masse that have a price range similar to the Albions. But with that in mind, any more questions, my noble outlaws, whilst I go and retrieve a drink? They don't come with their own scabbard, also, they don't come with scabbards, which is a major downside, which the Cold Steels and the Tinkers remedy. There's actually a lot more. Originally, there was only Cold Steel, Tinkers, and Ronin that had scabbards with their blades. A lot of manufacturers are starting to make European-style blades, and they're starting to include the scabbards with the blade. Stephen Lockwood. And while that may be a detriment or a downside, I spend almost $2,000 on a sword, why don't I get a scabbard? The scabbards that Albion makes are just as time-consuming and embellished as their swords. Stephen Lockwood is good but expensive. I haven't really looked at any Stephen Lockwood blades. I'll have to look at some. But type up any more questions you have, my noble band of outlaws. I'm just stepping in there real quick to grab a drink. And I'm back. I needed that. But I mean, I wouldn't mind having an Albion, honestly. But the Albion that I want, they no longer make, and Skallagrim has, which is the Kriegsmesser. The Albion Kriegsmesser. I've said this before, but with sword companies, a lot of the times the prices can be justified if the quality is high enough. Now, me personally, I can make a cheap $10 scabbard that will do the job of a scabbard if I was to buy an Albion pretty damn well. But for me to be able to buy an Albion, I'd have to save about 4 months worth of paychecks. Especially for some reason, Sizzle refuses to let me, even though I've done a shit ton of business with them, Sizzle refuses to let me do the multi-month financing plan. Yeah. So, any more questions, my noble band of outlaws? Again, I thank all of you for tuning into this. It really does mean quite a lot to me. And I never thought that I would actually reach over 1,000 subscribers. To be quite truthful with you, when I first started the Outlaw Samurai, I was just coming off of my other channel, which has been lost to the seas of YouTube, called Backwoods Samurai. That was my original channel, and many broken tablets and forgotten passwords. Later, some family stories were told to me, and I became Outlaw. For those of you who haven't gone back to the live stream list, the name Outlaw Samurai originally came from a story that was told to me about my great-great-great-grandfather, who was a famous Cherokee outlaw turned sheriff, Ben Thompson. That's where the outlaw in the Outlaw Samurai comes. Samurai because I'm a major otaku. I love katanas, I love Japanese anime, I love pretty much all of that. And then the 47 in the Outlaw Samurai 47 comes from the story of the 47 Ronin who defied the shogunate in order to avenge their master and honor the old ways of Bushido. But that's a whole thing there. I really need to get outside and start cutting. Starting to get a little rusty in the old joints. But I usually don't make these live streams last too long because I usually run out of shit to say and never really plan these things out. So, with that in mind, I believe this is where I will end this live stream. Thank you, my noble band of outlaws, for showing up. Thank you, Tempest. Let me go back through the list here. Thank you, Tempest, for showing up. Thank you, Tone Death. Thank you, Nick Tinsley. Thank you, Stephen Mahawk. Of course, my boy Geekopedia. Thank you, The Best Loser. I know he was up here somewhere. Thank you, Gargoyle. Thank you, Jason. Thank you all, my noble band of outlaws, for subscribing, liking, commenting, all that good stuff. And thank you for tuning into the live stream. And until next time, my noble band of outlaws, Outlaw Samurai tells all y'all, be crazy rednecks. Be safe using your weapons. I'm out. Peace. And I hope you look forward to more videos to come in the near future.